Asia, and he's responsible for planning, delivering client-defined consulting engagements and strategic market reports. So he sounds like someone who's got a lot to say. Thanks very much.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you Automechanica for having us here, as we are also the knowledge partner with Automechanica. So my role here would be to talk about the market, talk about GCC and larger Middle Eastern countries. So what we have done today in our presentation, I tried to break it in three modules. So I will be quickly talking about the crude oil impact on the economy and what we expect from this year. Sorry. So I will talk about crude oil impact on the economy and what we expect from this year and 5 years down the line. Then I will quickly jump into the auto component or the automotive and auto component industry. I have listed a couple of opportunities here, and I will be focusing on only one opportunity because we just have 20-25 minutes to talk about. And then we will open the floor for Q&A session. Right? What we have already done this time, and I will be happy to circulate. We have put the presentation and other details about our company on a USB drive. So I'll be able to provide you the details on the USB drive this time. So it will be really handy for you guys. So just to start with, I have 4 sections in this presentation, as I mentioned earlier, talking about crude oil scenario and the implication, vehicle sales review, EYO review, spare parts and areas of opportunity which are available in the Middle Eastern countries, including UAE, Saudi and other Middle Eastern countries. When we specifically talk about crude oil, we have seen high reliance of the Middle Eastern economy on the crude oil, and that has made 2015 and 16 a year where most of the businesses are suffering big time. Because of that, the government, especially in UAE, in Qatar and in Saudi Arabia, we have already seen a lot of measures has been taken to move away from the crude economy. So we have seen a lot of measures here, cut on fuel subsidies, VAT to be introduced 5% by 2018, airport housing taxes, corporate taxes proposed in various GCC countries, and rising government bond issuers. So this year is not a very good year. The Emirates NBD forecast the growth to be about 2.5% only in comparison with previous years. UAE and Qatar put together, because of Expo 2020 and FIFA World Cup 2022, the capex has not come down, which is helping economy to grow much faster than the other GCC economies today. To quickly talk about what is changing or what does it mean for the GCC countries. When we talk about Saudi, which is under scrutiny, and UAE, where diversification is paying off, so growth estimate, which was on almost 3.4% last year, it has been revised to 1.9% in 2016. Lot of measures which we talked about in previous slide has been taken. Privatization, the 5% stake of Saudi Aramco likely to be issued for the global market. So we'll see a lot of privatization happening in Saudi Arabia as well. When we talk about diversification in UAE, Expo 2020, tourism industry, that is helping to grow the economy. Even in 2016, we already saw that March indication for Dubai has become positive. February it was negative. So we'll see a lot of those changes coming up. So at overall level, 2016 is not a very good year so far. But beyond 2016, we are expecting stabilization in crude oil prices. So in the longer term, till 2020, if we take CAGR of next 5 years, we are expecting 8 to 9% growth in the overall automotive industry, with a decline in 2016. Yeah. So just few observation about the crude oil and its impact on the market. Then I will enter to the section where we are experts. So from the automotive standpoint, now when I talk about automotive, what we have done here, we have included the light vehicle category, which is less than 3.5 ton GVW. So I am not focusing much on the commercial vehicle side, I am focusing on passenger vehicle side a lot. So we'll talk about how the sales has been in last 5 years, how it's likely to grow in near future, what is the impact on EYU because of that, how the spare part market is performing and what are the areas of opportunity when we talk about spare parts and related products together. Quickly start with when we look at the sales numbers, and I forgot to mention one point. We have included GCC, 6 countries. We have included Iran, and we included rest of Middle East, which mainly includes Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Libya. Not Libya, Syria and Yemen. So when we look at overall numbers of sales in 2015, GCC sold almost 1.8 million light vehicles. Iran was at about 1.2, but Iran here includes commercial vehicle as well, which is about 10% of this numbers, and rest of Middle East was about 0.2%. So if we talk on a longer horizon till 2020, we are expecting a CAGR of 9%, all these countries put together. The major growth we will definitely see in Iran once all the confusion around regulation, around financing system clears within this year, then we will see almost double-digit growth happening in Iran in terms of light vehicle sales and the component sales. Rest of Middle East, Jordan and Lebanon is performing well. We expect this market to grow further. Yemen, which was around 22,000 units in 2014, has came down to 7,700 in 2015. On a longer run, we are talking about this market potential to grow by almost 4-5% beyond 2018. So we expect the rest of Middle East to again perform well on a longer run. From the spare part standpoint, it becomes very important to understand what is the vehicle in operation. So how many vehicles are operating in these countries. So when we talk about GCC, 14.6 million vehicles are operational today. In Iran, 16.9 million vehicles, including the commercial vehicle, are operational today. Now, Iran is probably the only country which has the vehicle scrappage policy. So we are expecting almost 2 million vehicles to be scrapped in next 2 to 3 years in near future. So that will again create a demand for new vehicles. So if I look at 2025 strategy of Iran, we are talking about 3 million vehicles to be produced locally, 2 million for the local market and 1 million to be exported. So out of that 3 million, 1 million is going to be repeat demand, which is coming because of the scrappage policy, strict scrappage policy. When we look at on the longer horizon, there are about 34.8 million vehicles in operation in the Middle Eastern countries, expected to reach to 44.5 million over next 5 years. If I look at composition of the vehicle or the segments, in most of the GCC countries you will see SUV is a key segment. So more than 45-50% market is from SUV sales. But when I talk about Iran specifically, the pickup sales or SUV sales is really less. It's about 8% of the market. Some of the regulation, we have already seen CAFE regulation in Saudi Arabia. The strict implication of this regulation will change the market drastically on longer run, and we will see the SUV share will come down by about 7 to 8% in next 5 years in the total UIU. So that changes we will see in next 5 years. Now, when we speak about vehicle age, and that becomes very important when we talk about spare part, because this decide that where my spare part is going to be consumed. So if we specifically talk about GCC, almost 41.6% vehicles are less than 5-year-old. Likely to be in the same range by year 2020. From a spare part perspective, the regulation will be deciding that is there opportunity for aftermarket company or a service provider or not. Because if the regulation gets finalized and if the regulation says that if I can service my vehicle outside the service network, even in that case my warranty remains intact, then this segment will allow a lot of multi-brand service center to open up, and especially in GCC countries, which means there is a lot of opportunity in that segment in multi-brand service center, multi-brand body repair, if regulation permits that, right? More than 15-year vehicle is less, about 8%, but in the Iran and rest of Middle East situation is different. You have more vehicle which is into more than 15 years category. They do not drive. In Saudi Arabia, the vehicle driving pattern is on an average vehicle drives about 30,000 kilometers, which is among the highest in the world. But that is for these two categories. Once we go beyond this category, they drive about 20,000 20 to 22,000 kilometers. So that decide that which part will be replaced and how it will be replaced. Now, one point I would like to mention here, when we talk about spare part market, we take reference from export and import, but our major estimate happens on the replacement cycle. So if we have UIU of let's say 10 million units, how many times I will replace the tire, how many times I will replace the battery, I will replace the service parts, collision parts. Based on that, all the estimations are done. It's not purely from the import-export perspective, but it is from the consumption standpoint as well. On the UIO side, when we talk about the OEMs and changes, Japanese application dominates the market with almost 52.2% share. We are seeing a decline by year 2020 in the Japanese application, and there are various reasons for that. We can talk about that in the Q&A session or after this session. Korean OEM, which was almost negligible 6-7 years back, they have really gone up. Right now they account for almost 26% of the market. For the Korean OEMs, there was a huge problem with the service centers. The sales was not able to support the services of the car, where they have made a recent investment, and now we are expecting them to gain 4 to 5% more share in a longer run. Same way, American OEMs, we are expecting a decline. So when we talk about American OEM, the heavy vehicle, especially on the Saudi Arabia side, will see, because of the regulation changes, their sales will get impacted. As well as because of the perception in the market, we are expecting sales to decline in near future. That will have impact on the vehicle in operation as well. When we specifically talk about spare parts for light vehicles, almost $13 billion market, GCC, Iran and rest of Middle East, expecting almost 5.9% growth. And for a component company, parts per vehicle is highest in GCC countries. In Iran it's about $277, and in rest of it is about $333, and we are expecting about 4 to 5% increase every year in the parts per vehicle cost. Now when I talk about Iran here, this also includes the parts which goes for original vehicles on the assembly line, but rest of markets are the aftermarket replacement demand. Key categories of parts, definitely tires and batteries are the key one. Then I have not included lubricants here, but that's again one of the major category which accounts for which is about number 4 or number 5 in position when we talk about all the parts. Then brake parts, filters, starters, alternators, these are the other categories which account for major market share. The list is really long because there are more than 800 SKUs available in automotive, but the top 75 parts account for 80% of the revenue for any genuine part supplier. If you look at how the parts are distributed, there are basically 6 ways of distributing the part. Number 1 is genuine part. The definition of genuine part for us, the parts which are OE parts, so the Mopar, Mobil, GM Genuine, Motorcraft, these we include as a genuine part. Then we have branded aftermarket parts, so basically the Tier 1 supplier, Denso, Delphi, Bosch, Valeo, they are included in this category. Then we talk about other aftermarket parts which are not Tier 1 supplier, and then the important category comes, which is parallel import. That's the biggest threat for most of the GCC countries, because the parallel import for the Korean application can go as high as 30% of their total sales in the market. For American application, it's bit down, but this is the biggest threat where most of the OEMs failed to manage the parallel import. They have put a lot of restrictions on the import itself, but we don't see any major decline happening in this market. Just to clarify the definition of parallel import, these are genuine parts but coming directly from the country of origin without involving their local distributor. So let's say when we talk about GM Genuine, the parts which are coming from Mexico or Latin American countries without involving local distribution setup of GM and Ford or other American OEM. So those are parallel import, all genuine parts. Then counterfeit and system supplier. These are the other 2 categories. Now I am on a very simple slide of this deck. So when we talk about how the parts are distributed, we have 2 channels. One is OE side of the business, which is the 2S or 3S facility of an OEM. They sell parts through service channel. The the counter sales and the wholesale channel, genuine part, and there is an aftermarket side of the business. There have been a couple of changes in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, now quickly coming up to UAE. In near future, we might see this portion of the supply chain of the 3-tier structure is getting reduced, which is sub-wholesaler or a wholesaler, because most of the distributor is planning to move towards a milk run system. That is basically removing this channel and having a logistic company as a partner with you. So you move parts through logistic company directly to the retailer. So they don't need to keep the stock. You can supply the parts on daily basis to them, and then you pass on the money to the retailer to promote your brand. That has already happened in Egypt in terms of batteries. We have seen it happening in Saudi in terms of tires, and we'll see in terms of in UAE we are expecting it to start for batteries and tires both, and then slowly moving towards spare parts. We will see those changes happening. I have listed a couple of areas of opportunities here, but I will be only focusing on one. One is definitely accessories. So when we talk about car accessories, if you look at the developed countries like US and Europe, OEM and the aftermarket company makes profit here. They don't make profit by selling cars. Major profit is made in case of accessories, which we don't see in most of the Middle Eastern countries. The other areas of opportunities is car rental leasing, mobile quick wash and door-to-door service, car spa, quick service center, mobility solution, online retail and organized waste management. These areas I will not be focusing today. I'll only focus on the accessories. So if you have any questions on this area, I am available all the time. Quickly starting with the accessory side of the business. What we have done, we have compared US, EU, APAC, India and what happens in Middle East. So in most of the developed countries or other developing countries, we see vehicle sales doesn't give more profit. It is normally less than 4% or 5%. In Europe, sometimes it is zero. Don't make money while selling vehicle. But in Middle East or especially in GCC, we make 10 to 20% profit by selling cars only, which has not allowed us to actually explore other areas of profitability. And 2016 turning out not to be a so good year for vehicle sales, and I would say if it continues, it will be a balancing period for most of the companies if they want to explore the opportunities available on the accessory side of the business. The major profit you see is coming from this category, and sometimes it can go more than 50% where we don't sell much. When we talk about average, or when we talk about how large is the accessory market in GCC, it's more than $2 billion, including both the genuine and the non-genuine accessories. And the average share of per car sales, so in Saudi, normally the accessory sale per car is about 100 to 170, but in UAE is just more than double than Saudi. So the opportunity lies here and in these countries, in terms of revenue, and in Saudi in terms of volume. If you look at OEMs, you will see in which market they are focusing how much. I'm talking about the genuine side of the accessories now. So you will see Toyota is doing really well, especially in Kuwait. Dodge is doing really well, but a couple of the Japanese and Korean brands are not focusing much on the accessories, and that's where the opportunity exists for the aftermarket brands. When you go and buy a car, you don't see the salesperson pushing you to buy accessories, because at that point of time you can include the accessory cost in your overall funding of the vehicle, so you are not paying upfront in that case, right? But you don't see any efforts happening on that side. This is the major drawback. For the aftermarket company, it's an opportunity, because you can approach all those customers, and social media is turning out to be the best tool to sell accessories in Kuwait, in UAE, in Egypt, in most of the Middle Eastern countries. So that's an opportunity which is available for aftermarket companies. So I put some of the points which are the pain area while selling accessories. There is no clear incentives. No one is getting paid for selling. Very less money is given to the salesperson to sell accessories. Even if you approach a service counter or a spare part shop, they don't know where to sell accessories. The part numbers are not available. So these are the problem areas which can be addressed to increase sales from accessories side of the business. Definitely there are other areas of opportunities available as well, which I will not be focusing today, but we can talk about it during the break or after the session. Top 3 pointers. Tough time ahead. So traditional method will not allow to earn profitability. We need to think of non-traditional method which allow us to earn profitability. Standard operation in GCC will help from the genuine and non-genuine standpoint as well, because we have seen most of the OEMs or most of the tier 1 supplier, they don't have a set standard to be followed by their distributor or local partners. So standardizing those will help a lot. Thank you so much for your time today, and so if we have any question, I can take it now.
So do we have any questions?
Yeah.
Subhash, I was just wondering, while people are thinking about that, from your experience and looking at the marketplace and the challenge of distribution parts changing, is it possible for you to say where you see the opportunities in terms of spare parts distribution or new opportunities emerging? Can you say something about that?
When we specifically talk about spare parts, whenever you see the vehicle sales is coming down, the spare part market gets impacted after a year or two. There is no direct impact, especially on the maintenance side of the business. Service parts and the maintenance side of the business, they are not directly impacted. From the operation standpoint, there is always a problem in getting the money on time, ordering the part, if you have a cash crunch issue, which I don't see a major problem right now. So the major impact you have seen on the vehicle sales rather than spare part sales in this market. There are definitely areas of opportunities which are available, because still if you see, the share of genuine part is not very high, right? But there is a need in the market for genuine part. So the restructuring of the distribution structure, how you supply your product to the end customer and how you educate your customer about the genuine part, that's required. If you look at the service side of the business, the quick service is a very fast developing concept in Qatar, in UAE and in Saudi Arabia. Most of these quick service centers which are coming up now, they are looking for a cost-effective mechanism to stock the parts. So if the distributor can support them to have a JIT concept or to have a concept where the quick service center can save the cost, because they don't have high margin to earn. So if you can support them, then they will be much more happy to use the genuine part for the vehicles.
That's very interesting, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? This gentleman.
Hi, just wanted to know, you were talking about vehicle in operation. What is the standard age that you take into consideration when you calculate the total number of vehicles?
Well, but if you talk about the standard age, it varies by countries. You have the lowest age in Qatar, which is about 6.8, 6.9 year. The UAE is about 7.5, 7.6. Saudi is about more than 8 year, 8.2. Iran is in the range of 9, 9.5. So that's the average vehicle age of the UAE. If you go on African side, then it's very difficult to estimate.
My question is regarding in your calculation, you are taking 1.8 million or 1.9 million vehicles in GCC. In your calculation, what's the standard that you have taken for calculating the total vehicle park?
Okay. So, well, we don't focus on average age while calculating the vehicle park, because we very closely work with government departments here to understand that what is the vehicle registration, right? And we also try to understand what is the attrition rate. So attrition rate can be of 4 types. Number 1, the vehicle which are getting exported from here, the vehicle which are not used because of the accidents, the vehicle which are less run, which are more than 15 years old, they are just standing as a station vehicle. And so we try to estimate the attrition rate based on these 3 or 4 parameters.
Alright.
And based on that, we take last 15-year data to understand how many vehicles are moving out and how many new vehicles are coming in. Now it is very difficult to estimate the vehicle park for UAE, because there is lot of vehicle export which happens from the retail market.
Alright.
One export happens from Jebel Ali, another export happens from the retail market. So if you go to any I would say, sales manager today, he will be on the phone sending car to Iran because the sales of this market is down. We do speak with the local companies here to understand what proportion of the retail sales is sold locally, and then we try to add up a percentage over and above it to estimate it in the overall vehicle park. And then we,
So as I understand it correctly, you calculate the total vehicles sold in last 15 years, then you apply the various attrition rates
Yes.
based on the survival ratios, and then you get to the total figure of
total figure of vehicle park. So that's the reason if anyone asks me, can I give you model wise vehicle park? My answer is no. So that's not possible.
And the second question is regarding, I saw in your presentation that you are projecting a decline in the Japanese part sales over next 5 years.
Not part sales, the vehicle in operation,
Vehicle
the
in
UIU, yeah, the VIU.
Alright. I'm sure you might have taken some, if we can get into the background, I mean, what is the basis of those assumptions?
Sure, we can make a talk on that. So Japanese and American, we are expecting some decline.
Thank you very much. Please show your appreciation for a very interesting